transformation danger zone for a lot of people that I talk to is that their spouse, like they're on board, they're trying to get healthy, but their spouse isn't there yet, and it almost creates a toxic environment at home. Any advice or suggestions on how to bridge that gap, or at least just keep it calm and neutral at home so that they can make progress themselves?
Yeah, it can come up a lot, so absolutely. And I think one of the first things is really to understand that the way they are reacting, let's say they're reacting by saying, why are you doing it? Or that they've got a negative approach to whatever your change in eating and healthy living is probably that it's coming from fear. Often when people start to get well, they start to get healthy, it can create fear in the other person. Fear that perhaps they might lose you, fear that they're perhaps not good enough. Sometimes it can bring up their own issues because they think, well, you're dealing with this in your life and I'm not dealing with perhaps the issues in my life. So it can be sort of like putting them in a spotlight. And so what probably they're really needing is love. And so it's being kind and being loving and saying, look, I'm doing this for me and I love you, and just giving them that reassurance. And also, perhaps if you haven't already, inviting them to be part of it, inviting them to join the path if they're interested. Now, sometimes people think, well, no, I don't want to know about what you're doing, which cannot make it very difficult. But it's really not being codependent, and by that I mean is we have to always look after ourselves. And being codependent is where we say, I'll give up me in order to be loved by you. So if someone is starting to be healthy, starting to lose the weight, starting to feel good about themselves, and then their partner is complaining or making remarks, and then they stop doing what they're doing so they're loved and accepted, that's really going to hurt you in the long term. So it's being strong enough to say, I need to look after my own needs first, being loving, being reassuring to them, but not ever at the sacrifice of yourself. And eventually, often people do come round, but it may be difficult sometimes in the initial phases.
Yeah, and that's huge, man. I'm sure you see this a lot too, but so many people are out there and they're just in that pit of feeling like they are a failure, feeling like, they aren't worth the effort, especially the morbidly obese population. I see a lot of people that have just lost hope. And you've mentioned a couple of times about, loving yourself, knowing that you're worth it, being willing to invest in yourself. So I wanted to pick your brain a little bit and get some thoughts on maybe there are somebody out there, maybe there's somebody out there that is morbidly obese, that's feeling really like almost like it's impossible to love themselves. Like, how do we turn the tide there? How do we reverse that kind of momentum?
So really reversing it, there's lots of different ways. One of the ways that I like to use is I do hypnotherapy, which can help retrain our mind. If our mind is constantly on a negative default, like I'm let's say I've had things like I'm fat, I'm ugly, nobody wants to talk to me, that kind of thing. So if we have those thoughts on a repetitive loop, and as humans we think things on a repetitive loop, sometimes having hypnotherapy or meditations where we listen to really empower ourselves and to give us self-love, this can really, really help. And it can help us getting into a more positive way of thinking. So that's one way. And I have a free self-love meditation that I give away on my website if anybody wants that to listen to that repeatedly. The next thing really is to realise that we can change our life in any moment. All it takes is a decision. And whilst, yes, you're not going to completely change your body overnight, just that decision, enough is enough, you can change everything. So it's just getting to that point. So I guess the first thing really also as well is to ask yourself why. Why is it important to me to change? What could the benefits be? And looking at all the benefits and then really sort of motivating yourself to get to that point. That can be very helpful. And then if you feel like you can't even get there because you do hate yourself, you do feel low, then I would say being around people that love you, doing things that boost your confidence, just to get you started. Starting small, setting yourself small things to do, like I'm going to go for a 10-minute walk. I believe that it's better to do 10 minutes of something you like than an hour of something that you hate. And just being really loving to yourself in those ways, and surrounding yourself with people that make you feel good.
So how important do you feel like community is when you're dealing with, eating disorders, emotional eating? These are things that really tend to isolate people or make them feel very isolated. So, and they may not be willing to reach out and get help from a counselor or join a therapy group. But how important do you feel like that community, that connection, that assistance really is?
I would say it's very, very important because, like you say, most addictions, they are isolating. And the more you isolate, the more your addiction gets worse. And whether you see food as an addiction or not, I know for myself, when I was really in it, I turned down so many social invitations because I wanted to binge that night on my cake, on my pizza. I just wanted to be alone and stuff myself. I turned down loads of food when I was in the eating less, because I didn't want to eat things out of my control, because it was a control thing for me as well, eating. And so the more we isolate, the worse our behaviours often become, because no one's going to see us and we become addicted to that ritual and that pattern. So I think it's very, very important, and it's also very important to understand that we are not alone, that there is not something wrong with us, there is something wrong with the behaviour. We are not fault, the behaviour's at fault. We are not bad, it's the behaviour that we want to change. So once we can get into that mode, and that what helps us get into that mode is connecting and interacting with other people. And for people that don't have the financial resources or don't have the confidence to reach out to anybody, there is programs like Overeaters Anonymous and other anonymous eating issues groups which can help people, where they can email and get support. They don't even have to see anyone. Or where they can join an online call and listen in. They don't even have to say anything. Or I say, if someone's really struggling, start there. Just listen to some motivational talks or emails from people that have gone through what you're going through.
Yeah, and just to do a shameless plug of your information, I feel like if there is anybody that's out there that's looking for just that initial foothold, Nicola's website is excellent. Her podcast is excellent. I mean, it's a great resource, and that's one of the reasons that I brought her here for you guys to learn from today. So that's, if you're looking for that first step, that would be my recommendation for you. Now, Nicola, what are some other ways that people can connect with you as far as coaching and getting more information? You mentioned one of your free courses. Let's talk about that a little bit.
So I have a 5-part audio course, and you can subscribe on my website to get that. And it's basically the 3 key things to stop emotional eating and dieting. And it talks about how to love yourself, how to let go of the guilt, the negativity, and to really kickstart healthy living and moving away from all of these extreme and fad diets that can occupy our mind. Because I personally found that when I was tracking this and tracking that actually it made me worse, and I just ended up always piling on the weight back on. So you can get this free 5-part audio on my website, and you can also get the self-love meditation on my website absolutely free. You can just download it, and there you'll learn more about courses and how to contact me for any coaching. And I do offer a free 30-minute peaceful eating session that if you would like to explore more about working with me one-to-one, we can have a discussion and I can help you. And then at the end, if you're interested to learn more, I can talk you through it. But really, it's to give you the opportunity to see there are other ways of eating rather than going from this starving and binging cycle that I definitely know I was trapped in for 25 years.
Yeah, and you're somebody that's crossed that bridge, and I feel like that's not to knock somebody that has like a dietetics degree or something like that, but there's a definite difference from somebody that has the education but also has the experience and can say, I've walked that path, I've been exactly where you're at, and I can help. So again, this is just a tremendous resource, and I'm so glad that we got to connect with this. Now, Nicola, I like to leave my audience in action, all right? We've given them some tips, we've given them some inspiration, we've got the wheels turning mentally on this topic. But let's say somebody's out there that is struggling with that emotional eating. What would you say would be one simple action step that person could take in the next 24 hours just to get that momentum going in the right direction?
Okay, so it's not an easy thing to do, but the best thing that they can do, I would say, is to put down the food, ask yourself, what am I really feeling here? And really sit with your emotions. Maybe journal, maybe cry, whatever comes up. Because this is really the trigger. And then ask yourself, what's a different loving thing that I can do? What's a different thing that I can do for myself? Or what can I do to address this feeling? Because we need to actually start to feel our feelings to break the cycle of this emotional eating. If that makes sense.
Oh yeah, that's an amazing tip. Like you said, it's a simple step, but not an easy one. All right, but that's, we talked about it earlier, being willing to get outside of our comfort zone. For things to change, we have to change. For things to get better, we have to think a little bit differently. I think that's a great action step. Now, Nicola, I appreciate you coming on the show. I appreciate you taking the time. I know we're like a million time zones away from each other, so this was a connection that I greatly appreciate, and I think you've added some great knowledge and some great transformation tools for our listeners here today.
Great, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed talking to you.
All right, everybody. Been inspired. You've got lots of key takeaways, I'm sure. Now it's time to get out there and own it. Every meal, every workout, every day, and I will see you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to Emotions and Eating with Nicola Beer. To book your free eating strategy session with Nicola, get the free eating support audio or donate. If you have enjoyed the show and want to help keep the show flowing, visit www.nicolabeer.com, where you can also find out more about her new system that has helped hundreds of men and women to change their relationship with food and their body, so they experience more peace and love in their life. We wish you an amazing love-filled day ahead.